The light at Devil's Reach. They say the sea keeps its secrets, but that's a lie. The sea doesn't keep secrets. It whispers them at night, through the walls, up the stairs, into your ears while you lie frozen in your bunk, heart pounding like a drum. I didn't believe that once. I do now. My name is Liam Hayes. I've served in the Coast Guard for over 12 years. I'm not the storytelling type. I don't drink, don't gamble, and I've never believed in ghosts or monsters. I fix lights, engines, and radars, nothing more. But what happened at Devil's Reach changed me in a way I still can't explain. Back in the fall of 2017, I got assigned to a maintenance rotation on a decommissioned lighthouse off the coast of Nova Scotia. The place was known as Devil's Reach, a jagged outcrop of rocks and gull-covered cliffs about 12 miles from the mainland. There was no harbor, no dock, no power grid, not even plumbing. Just a rusted lighthouse and a one-room shed full of fuel cans and forgotten tools. Normally, it's a solo job, but after reports of equipment failures and power anomalies the year before, Command sent 2 of us. I went out with another technician named Marcus Ellison. We weren't close, but we'd worked together a few times before. Marcus was a quiet guy, sharp, methodical, with a dry sense of humor. Like me, he didn't buy into the supernatural stuff. The first few days were uneventful. Rain, wind, routine checks. The beacon housing needed a cleaning. The emergency diesel had to be rotated, and the batteries tested. Nights were dull. We ate canned soup, played cards, and read by lantern light. There was a stillness to the place that made it feel like we were suspended out of time. No signal, no outside world, just the sea and us. But on the 4th night, something changed. I woke around 2 a.m. with a tight feeling in my chest. The kind you get just before lightning hits. The air felt heavier, charged. I couldn't hear the rotating sweep of a lighthouse beacon, the sound that had become a kind of lullaby in the background. I sat up, uneasy, and glanced out the porthole. No light, nothing but blackness outside. I shook Marcus awake. We threw on our boots and climbed the narrow metal stairs up to the beacon room. It was pitch dark, but we could hear the gear assembly whirring. The motor was trying to turn the light, but it wasn't moving. Something was jammed in the housing. We pried the metal casing open and found the blockage, a shredded piece of dark, oily fabric. It was soaked, slimy, and smelled like dead seaweed mixed with decay. It looked like it had been underwater for years. We couldn't figure out how it got there. The room was locked, the windows sealed. No birds, no wind access, just us. We tossed the thing outside into the ocean breeze, double-checked the motor, and headed back to bed. The next night, same thing. I jolted awake at 2:13 a.m. The light was out again. We raced back up, and there was another piece of cloth, but not the same kind. This one looked like a woman's scarf. Red, frayed at the ends, soaked in seawater, tiny barnacles clinging to the edges. It had no business being inside that tower. That's when I stopped believing this was a fluke. Something was interfering with the beacon, and we weren't alone. We started locking everything tight, bolting the stairs with crates. After final checks each night, we padlocked the beacon room and shoved furniture against the barracks door. We weren't scared yet, but we were alert. On the 7th night, I caught Marcus whispering. He was lying in his bunk, mumbling into the darkness. I couldn't make out the words, but he sounded like he was answering someone. I sat up and asked what he was saying. He blinked. What? You were talking to someone? He looked confused. No, I was asleep. Later that same night, I caught him standing at the window, staring down at the rocks below. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "There was someone down there. Last night, I saw them just before the light went out." I didn't sleep that night. By day 9, Marcus was unraveling. He stopped shaving, stopped eating. He'd stare out the porthole for hours, murmuring to himself. He started scratching at the walls, saying he heard footsteps in the tower. I tried to stay rational. I kept notes, took photos, but it was hard to deny what was happening. That night, we both heard it. Footsteps, deliberate, slow, descending from the beacon above. Thud, thud, thud. We stood at the base of the stairs, staring up into blackness. "You go?" I asked him. He shook his head. "You?" No, neither of us had moved. The light was locked, but someone or something had walked down from that room. We blocked the stairwell with an iron pipe and dragged a dresser in front of our door. Slept with knives under our pillows. On the 11th night, it escalated. The beacon stopped again, and this time, the room wasn't locked when we got there. It was wide open. The wind howled through, freezing cold. The gears were intact, but the bulb had been unscrewed and placed upright in the center of the floor. That bulb was industrial grade, reinforced. You couldn't just twist it off casually. It took effort, intent. Marcus stared at the bulb and muttered, "They don't want the light on." That's when I felt it. Something brushed my back. Cold, wet. I turned, heart hammering, but there was no one there. Marcus had gone pale, his eyes locked on the far wall. "There was a hand," he whispered. "It came out of the brick." We ran. We barricaded ourselves again. I didn't sleep at all. Marcus sat in the corner, rocking, muttering in some language I didn't recognize. At first light, I called for extraction. I told them we had critical system failure. They said they'd dispatch a boat by afternoon. That should have been the end of it. But just before they arrived, one of the crew asked us about the 2:12 a.m. distress call. The one we made with the emergency set phone. We didn't make any call, I told him. He looked confused. "You did. We got a transmission. Static." Then someone said, "He's here. He's with us now." Then silence. Marcus never said a word on the ride back. He quit the Coast Guard a month later, moved to Colorado. I haven't seen him since. As for me, I still work lighthouses, still do repairs. But if they ever try to send me back to Devil's Reach, I'll go AWOL before I set foot on that cursed rock again. Some lights aren't meant to be fixed. Some shadows aren't meant to be disturbed. The light that shouldn't go out. My name is Gregory, and I've heard a lot of strange things in my life, but what I'm about to share with you is something I still think about late at night, especially when it's quiet. Too quiet. This story didn't happen to me, but to my friend Marcus, someone I've known for over 20 years. Marcus isn't the kind of man to spook easily. He's been a diver, a coastal technician, and a government contractor, spending most of his adult life fixing the things that others were too afraid to touch. Oil rigs, sunken vessels, sea walls battered by hurricanes. But what happened to him in the fall of 2014 off the coast of Oregon nearly broke him. Marcus had been hired by a county restoration board to inspect an old decommissioned lighthouse called Crane's Hollow Point. It sat alone on a jagged slab of rock, roughly 40 miles from shore. No docks, no roads, just stone, moss, rust, and silence. His job was to spend 4 days there, catalog the structural integrity of the tower, and radio in a report before being picked up. It was nothing he hadn't done a dozen times before. He left on a Monday morning, radio in hand, a backpack with food and supplies, and his usual gear. The county boat dropped him off at high tide, and the second he stepped onto that slick black rock, he told me he felt it, like the island was watching him. But Marcus wasn't the type to turn back. The first night was uneventful, or so he thought. The lighthouse tower stretched maybe 60 feet up, capped with the old glass beacon that hadn't worked in decades. Inside, the air was heavy, salty, and metallic. Layers of dust clung to everything, and each step on the spiral staircase echoed up and down the hollow stone interior like a warning. The second day, the fog came, thick, white, endless. It pressed up against every window like it wanted in. And that's when Marcus noticed something strange. A maintenance closet that had been rusted shut the day before was now open, just a crack. Inside it sat a small wooden box covered in moss. Damp, heavy, like it had been dragged up from the ocean floor. He didn't open it. Now listen, if you've made it this far into the story, then you're probably like me. You love these eerie, true or maybe not so true tales that keep you up at night. So before we go further, if you're already feeling chills, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment if you've ever experienced something similar, and subscribe for more unsettling stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. That night, Marcus was woken up by a sound. But it wasn't just a sound, it was the absence of all sound. No waves, no wind, just a dead silence, so complete it felt suffocating. And then, faintly at first, came footsteps. Not from outside, but from above. They moved slowly, deliberately, up the spiral stairs. Not down, up. He lay frozen, flashlight in hand, staring at the stairwell's entrance. But nothing came. When morning finally arrived, he swept the entire tower, top to bottom. Nothing. No animals. No people. Just the same damp box, now inexplicably placed halfway out of the closet and into the stairwell. That was when Marcus began to feel fear. He dragged the box to the base of the stairs, not sure what to do with it. The lid was nailed shut. The wood was bloated with seawater. Something about it. It was wrong. He went outside to clear his head, and that's when he saw them. Footprints. Bare. Human. Wet. Leading from the far side of the lighthouse toward the cliff's edge, and stopping. No returning steps. No signs of struggle. Just the prints and the void beyond the rocks. Marcus told me he tried every rational explanation. Maybe another boat had landed. Maybe a prank. Maybe he was just sleep deprived. But that didn't explain what happened that night. Around 1:30 a.m., the door to the top beacon room slammed shut violently. The whole tower shuddered. Dust fell from the rafters. And then came the knocking. 3 deliberate knocks. Not on a door. Not on the windows. But from inside the wall. He didn't sleep after that. Who would? He wedged the stairwell shut with a rusted iron pipe and waited for daylight. But when he went to check again, the box was gone. The closet was wide open, and the silence returned like a heavy cloak. He used his marine radio and called in an emergency pickup, faking a medical issue. They said it would be hours. Fog was too thick. Visibility was near zero. He waited outside, near the landing ledge, all day. The sun began to fade behind the wall of white mist. Then he heard footsteps again, this time behind him, on the gravel path around the base of the lighthouse. But when he turned, there was nothing. Only fog. Thick. Moving. He backed toward the cliff, clutching his flashlight. Still nothing. No boat. No voice. Just the sound of footsteps growing fainter, as if whatever was behind him had decided to stop and watch. When the county boat finally arrived, it was just after dusk. They said they nearly passed the island entirely, unable to see the shoreline. Marcus boarded, pale and silent. The deckhand told him he looked like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't argue. Marcus filed a report the next day, stating the tower was structurally unsafe and not suitable for restoration. He didn't mention the footsteps, or the box, or the knocks on the wall. He told me later he left those details out because he wasn't sure what had happened. Maybe he was losing it. Maybe isolation had finally gotten to him. But deep down, he didn't believe that. The thing that haunts me most isn't what Marcus told me, but what he didn't. I once asked him if he ever figured out what was inside that moss-covered box. He looked at me like I'd asked something forbidden and shook his head. Some things, he said, aren't meant to be opened, and some places aren't meant to be visited. I tried looking into Crane's Hollow Point myself, searching maps, county records, satellite imagery. But there's nothing. No official listing. No name. Just an empty gap in the charts where that rock should be. Almost like it was never there at all. But Marcus remembers. And now, so do you.